Okay. Evening, everyone. Thank you for the great turnout. Quite impressed, and it's a little bit daunting. I'm wearing the t-shirt tonight because if I don't wear the t-shirt tonight, when else is an appropriate time? So here we go. T minus 7 days. The shoes. I'm starting to stress. This is the 4th time they're in to get the Velcro sewn on for my gaiters. How hard can it be? Here in SA? Oh, I have to, sorry guys.
All right, can talk to your Zoom people.
Okay. Can you all see me? Hopefully. Okay, I'll have to get used to this. So like I was saying, here in SA, one is always making a plan. As they say, a boer maak 'n plan. And for this entire race, finding my kit was literally making a plan. If I'd been in the UK, I could have gone onto a website, my race base, and clicked MDS and hit a button and ordered everything that I needed and had it delivered to my house, but not the case here. So I needed my gaiters. Liz from AR Gaiters, if you're listening online, thank you very much. A little Google search found me to the homegrown gaiter company based in the Western Cape, and I ordered my desert gaiters. I must say that I was... Okay, awesome. So they arrived with the instruction manual or sheet on how to have them sewn onto your running shoes. So those of you that don't know, your shoes have to have Velcro sewn around. These are the gaiters. Not many people in South Africa, in Joburg, know how to do this. So I found a Indian shoe fixer, bag fixer, fixer of all sorts, who said that they would do the job for me. Anyway, 4th time lucky, we got it right. And I might add that the cost of my gaiter expedition, or getting my shoes right, was the same as the price of my brand new Salomon Tackies. T minus 4 days. I'm diligently packing my bag on the dining room table with all my food and belongings, because the race instructions were pack and repack and unpack and repack your bag so that you know how everything goes into it and how to fit it, because it is a logistical nightmare getting everything into your pack. And while I am packing my bag, on actually the attempt that I thought I'd got it perfect, my bag literally exploded in front of my eyes. It ripped apart. This pack that was my faithful companion for 4 months had already broken twice during the training and had been fixed twice by the Indian shoe fixer, bag fixer, fixer of all sorts. And I knew now, this is the 3rd time, like, I'm in trouble. I need to get a new bag. The problem is we're in SA, and the bag that I need is not that readily available, and I don't have time to buy it online. I'm leaving on Sunday. So off I went to Drifters, tears in my eyes, and luckily, by some miracle, they did have the bag. This bag, just so you know, this is a 20-litre backpack. Can you see it, guys? It's 4 litres less than my original bag. You know, it's not a lot of space if you can see that your life for 10 days has to fit inside here. That's it. I also had not run with this bag, but anyway, beggars can't be choosers, so this bag came home and I had to pack it. But now fitting 24 litres worth of stuff into a 20-litre bag was a challenge. All right, so bag sorted, shoe sorted, but it's Friday and I'm uneasy, something's not right, something's in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, what can go wrong? I am prepared, I'm more than prepared. I've been training for 4 months. I have been buying kit for 4 months. My dining room table had everything laid out. I had spreadsheets upon spreadsheets because spreadsheets for kit, spreadsheets for food, calories, weight, mandatory equipment, nice to have. So Why am I feeling uneasy? 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., I decide to go online and check my booking, my flight that has to depart from OR Tambo on Sunday. There's no flight. I look online, I look on the app. Now I start to panic. Because you must understand that this flight has consequential impact. I cannot just book another flight. I've got connecting flights, I've got accommodation, I've got bus transfers. One thing leads on to the other. I have to get on that flight. No flight. I go back to my emails. I find my ticket. I find my itinerary. I have a flight. Okay. Phone the airline. No, you do not have a flight. I have a return booking from Marrakesh, but I do not have a departure flight. So what ensued was the most torturous 9 hours of my life. From 5 p.m. on that Friday evening until 4 a.m. the next morning, I sat on the phone to a call center in India. I would rather run 9 hours through the night than sit on the phone. I think I cried. I don't know. I went through every kind of conceivable emotion. I was so close. I was this close, but I still was not yet at my destination. I think once committing to a huge goal like this, the exhausting part is the mental and emotional turmoil of hoping that everything goes according to plan, that nothing shatters the dream. 4 solid months of living in this constant state, and basically my sole existence was MDS, Marathon des Sables, Morocco. Anyway, 4 a.m. on that Saturday morning, my booking came through, and I was exhausted. I hadn't even run one step. Okay, next slide. Where do I click? Okay. All right. So Sunday evening, I made my merry way to OR Tambo. Let me tell you, wearing these shoes on my feet, clutching this bag. Anybody travel? This was my bag, filled with all my food and all my belongings for 10 days in my little grubby paws. Okay. So how do I even begin to tell you about this journey? Where do I even start and what do I focus on? There's just so many aspects to it. So what I'm going to try and do is tell you the lessons that I learned from this experience. I'll touch on some aspects, and at the end, you feel free to ask me whatever questions, whatever part you're interested in. All right, so we're talking back to front. When I finished the race and I was handed this medal, I turned the medal around. Inscribed on the back are the words, "Never stop dreaming." I couldn't actually believe it, because that's one of my mottos. If we don't have dreams, if we don't have goals, if we don't have aspirations, even if we think they're unattainable, even if we think that maybe possibly one day remotely we might be able to do them, if we don't have those dreams, what is actually the purpose of living? My mantra for the year of 2024 was make magic. And all I can say is MDS was a dream come true, and it truly was magical. Why MDS? All I can say is that I'm a runner, and it's a running race, and it's known as the hardest foot race on earth. So I like to do hard things. MDS in a nutshell, it was 252 kilometers across the Sahara Desert, starting in Morocco, completely self-sufficient. So I have to reiterate that point, completely self-sufficient. Like I tell people, and then they say, yeah, okay, so did they move your bag for you? Or, but you got dinner at night? Or I'm like, no. Everything that you need, you carry on you. There's no food, there's no nothing. The only thing they give you is water. So it's hard. It's hard on so many levels because it's long. And getting to the race is the first step, but you've got to survive the full 10 days while you're out there in the bivouac. You carry your own equipment. You're living on 2,000 calories a day when you've been on your feet for hours. You're sleeping on the floor, or should I say on rocks, because who knew that a desert could actually be that rocky? Extreme heat, minimal water, and each day's task was to ensure that you manage your pace, your nutrition, your hydration, and your recovery to make sure that you make it to the start of the next day. Within the race, every day was different, so each day had a theme. So there was a long day of 85 kilometers. There was a marathon day. There was a climbing day. There was a dunes day. There was extreme heat, blazing sun, sandstorms, and wind. No one prepared me. No one told me. Wind never crossed my mind. And wind, I hate wind. There was a lot of wind. And there was also a whole lot of nothingness. Okay, so I like to do hard things, as I said. I like to test my body. I like to see what am I capable of? What are we all capable of? Like, where is the limit? Where is the edge of impossible? I also believe that there's medicine in movement. And to me, my running adventures are definitely my therapy. Of course, everyone says, what are you running away from? Maybe there is truth in that. But on the positive note, I also like to say that I hope that I'm actually running towards something. So when I say I like to do hard things, I do like to do hard things, but I'm not stupid. I respect my body. I want to be able to guarantee some level of success. Like, I know there's always that element that you may not succeed, but I want to be prepared enough that I give myself a good enough chance. So this dream of MDS, this seed was planted in my mind maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So I think in the back of my mind, my training was continuous leading up until this point. I'd always told everybody that the day that I run this race would be the day that I stopped running. But anyway, I think that was a lie. Yeah. What I did do to see if I would survive in the desert is last year, April, I went and did a little trip through the Karoo. And I ran from California to Ceres, similar type of a thing, but a little bit nicer. Like, they did give you 10 liters of water to wash yourself with, and they did cook you dinner at night. But I loved it. And I said, that's it. I am going to do this race. I know I will love the desert. So the only thing was time and money. The right time and the money. That's everything. So in December 2023 is when I decided, okay, now is the time, and I'm going to run the race. So I think the hardest part for me of anything I do, whether it's a run, whether it's anything in life, it's actually the decision. The decision to decide to go ahead and do, the decision to do, the pen to paper, the saying yes, the commitment, the paying of your entry fee. Once you've done that, then it's easy. It's almost like a sigh of relief. The self-doubt goes, the questioning of yourself goes, and then you know you're committed, your head is in the game. You've just got to put your head down and do the work and train. Just so that you can see, I don't know, you probably won't hear it, but on this little thingy, my bobby, that's me sitting inside my tent in the bivouac, looking out, and that is dust and sand. It was just like billowing all the time. Oh, should I go backwards? How do I go backwards?
It's there.
Just go backwards. How do I go back? Like too far. Okay, there we go. Okay. And also I think so that like the sand and the wind and those bottles of water are like your life. When you came into camp every day, you got one of these, and this had to last you from when you got into the bivouac until the following morning, until you'd run your first 10 Ks and got to the next aid station. This was everything. All your drinking, all your cooking. And if you decided to use a drop of this to wash yourself or your clothes, well, at your own peril, unless you found someone who didn't use enough of their water. Yeah, so where am I? Yeah, so there are a lot of sand, a lot of wind. I think for those of you that are interested in the training aspect, for me, I didn't find the training hard. I committed in December, and I had a 4-month training block leading up to the race, which was the beginning of April. So when I say I didn't find it hard, I mean, I've run consistently throughout, so I just carried on running. My prep, a lot of it happened in the years before. So I've run comrades, I run 100-kilometer self-navigated mountain races. I've run 100-miler, 4 hours on the treadmill. So this was just a focused block of training. Something's making a noise. I can hear myself. For this, my training cycles were 9 to 10 days. So I trained solidly for 9 to 10 days before I had a rest day. I cycled as well, so I did a watt bike and bicycle because I'm prone to injury, and so the cross training was better. My faithful pack came with me on at least every long run, one run on the weekend, and it was weighted, and the weight increased every weekend. I did Westcliff stairs for 2 hours at a time with 8 kilos in my pack. I ran 4 or 5 hours on Saturdays and cycled or ran 4 or 5 hours on Sundays. Wednesdays were my worst day because those were a double day. If anyone thinks that the desert is flat, it's not. There are hills and dunes to climb. And so Wednesday was my hill day, and I did hills on the watt bike, and then I jumped off my watt bike, and then I went on the road, and then I did hills on the road. So those were painful. Yes. Because it becomes routine. You don't have to think, you just do. All right, but for a race like MDS, a lot of it is mental. How much you can't prepare yourself. For anything that you've never done, you don't know how you're going to handle it. So the first time you run a marathon, your longest run is probably 32 Ks. The first time you run 100 kilometers, maybe you've only done a 60 K. You don't know. So the head game is massive. That is a picture of me coming in on the long day, 17 hours of running after the 85K. And yes, I did not look like me. I was in a bad way. In actual fact, the cameraman put a little video, that thing on me as a camera, and he recorded me. And I think there's a video somewhere on Facebook, and apparently it's very funny, but I was wrecked. It was torturous. I think I vomited for the last 9 hours of those 17 hours. So yeah, I thought it was my worst day. It was probably the day that I did the best, strangely. I ran for 17 hours. Some of my tent mates were out for 32 hours and 34 hours. They were the ones that had the hardest time. So in any endurance event, you get the dark side. You're going to enter that pain cave. You're going to go to that dark place where you have to dig deep, where you have to talk to yourself. But when you explore that pain cave, that cave is always bigger than you realize. And I think that's the nice thing about any endurance event. You realize that we have huge potential as humans. And you actually wonder, do we ever reach our potential? Where is our limit? The feet picture, somebody here asked me about my feet. I was one of the lucky ones, and my tent mate. So the only problem I had on my foot was one little black toenail, and my tent mate had the corresponding black toenail. We were lucky because our feet were perfect. Most people had their feet shredded. Some people didn't even have soles of their feet left. I don't even know how they ran. Okay, so back to departure day. And I'm making my way to Marrakesh. So now again, coming from South Africa, you would think we're just going to the top of Africa. It should be a relatively easy journey, but it's not. If I was British or French, I would catch a charter flight straight to the small town in the heart of the desert and only need a 6-hour bus ride to the start of the race. But no, me, I flew from Owatambo to Doha, layover in Doha, Doha to Casablanca, Casablanca to Marrakesh. Night in Marrakesh, 6-hour bus journey to Ouarzazate, night over in Ouarzazate, 6-hour bus journey to the heart of the desert. That's like more than 4 days of travel before your race has even started. Remember, I'm clutching my bag with all my stuff, terrified that every time I went through customs or the conveyor belt, that they wouldn't take my biltong, that they wouldn't cut open my packs of protein powder. Like, yeah, that was a stress. Okay. So it was also Ramadan. So it's like, it was weird. And the airports were packed. It was sensory overload. I was stressed. I stress a lot. Even my tent mate said, like, I was very stressed. So just getting there, that was hard. So I got to Marrakesh, and it's amazing and beautiful, and I just wanted to hide in my hotel room. I was scared to cross the road because those horses and donkeys and bikes and people come at you from every single direction. And again, I thought, I can't even cross the road because a bike or a horse or a donkey or something's going to hit me and I'm going to be injured before I even start riding my race. Again, you're like so close to the start, but you're still not there. As I said, getting to the race is the harder than actually doing the race. All your preparation happens before. Your travel, your logistics. To me, that was really, really hard. That picture up there, that's just an interesting picture. That is some American putting a tincture on his feet, the stuff that they use on hunting dogs' paw pads to make them hard. We don't have that stuff in South Africa. But yes, people were preparing themselves. Okay, so while we're on this slide, just let me talk food for a moment. Everyone asked, I said the minimum calories was 2,000 calories a day. I knew I would die if I only had 2,000 calories. So I actually went with 2,500 to 2,800 calories, but then it means you're carrying more weight. So my food typically was Future Life for breakfast with protein powder. I had a sachet of coffee. I think by day 3, I even gave up making the coffee. I just poured the coffee into the cereal, fixed everything. So like, just, yeah. And there was sand in that too. Yeah. What did I have? Oh, then I had Tailwind, which is like a race drink. Again, I had to teach myself to run on less because it's heavy, it's powder, you've got to carry it. So I was taking half the quantity that I would normally do at home. I had some biltong, one day some like nuts, and alternated that. And then when I finished my race, I would have a protein recovery shake, and then I'd have a dehydrated meal and one little race food bar. That was my food for the day, and water. And I survived. I actually wasn't hungry. I mean, I was lucky. I think I was fine. I think if I'd carried on longer than 10 days, yeah, it would have started having an effect. Some of the people opted for calorie diets. So they just went on the equation, calorie in, calorie out. So just energy drinks, protein shakes, and they really battled. But on that note, you learn to barter and trade with your fellow race people. And you also prey on the people who are dropping out because you're going to take their... And South Africans are very good. At scavenging, nothing gets wasted. Yeah. So yes, you don't get any cooked dinner. There is no shop anywhere. Like whatever you have is what you have, and whatever you don't have, you don't have. Like, yeah. And there's no way to get anything. And even the medics, like in terms of medicine, the only thing they will give you is paracetamol. So I actually, on check-in day, I had cataflam and I had mifenol, which is like illegal. Like I had to put it in my bra for the check-in so that it wouldn't be confiscated. And thank goodness I had it because I had a migraine on the first day, and the only thing that killed it is cataflam. And if I didn't have that, like it would have, I don't know, Panado would not have worked for me. So this pack fact, has to have everything. Mandatory kit. The minimum weight is 6.5 kgs. So that is what the race organizers have worked out is your mandatory kit and food that you can, the least amount of weight without water. My pack weighed in at 9.5 kgs without water. It's heavy. So I brought those 5-litre things, and if you hold those 2 5-litre things, you'll know how heavy that is. Yeah. So there was the pack weight. There was one guy in one of the tents behind us, a huge Scottish guy, but living in America. He ran every day with 4 litres on him, and at every checkpoint, which was every 10 Ks, he refilled those 4 litres. And on the long day, he ran the same length of time as me. He ran 17 hours. He drank 24 litres of water in that time, and he didn't make one wee. So, yeah, because he told me. There's no pretense in the bivouac. There are no toilets, there are no showers, my pictures you'll see I'm wearing the same clothes every day because you only wear one set of clothes. I actually learned how to wash my clothes. So the clothes, you don't smell actually because it's like almost a sterile environment. And there's only the sand and there's nothing else. And then there's heat, but it's so hot that your sweat just dries. So your clothes just get they get hard, like with salt. So took the clothes off, and then in my Ziploc bag that had the food for that day, once I'd eaten that food, you just put your shorts or your shirt in, and then you pour a little bit of water, and then you squish, you save your water, and then squish, and then it takes the salt out, and you take your shorts out, and then you put them on, and then in 2 minutes they dry, and then that was that. It was really easy. Yeah. I didn't take a stove or anything because it was so hot. I put my water in my dehydrated meal, leave it for 5 minutes, and then it's cooked. And you drank hot water all day. That's what you drank. It's like hot water. Yeah. So that's about the food. Yeah, 2,800 calories. It's quite a harsh diet because you're running for 6 days, you're eating so little. I actually didn't come back that skinny. I would have thought that I would have lost more weight, but I didn't. Anyway, my one great trade-off was on day 3. So I'd already given out my spare cap because somebody's luggage didn't arrive from Amsterdam. He didn't listen, carrying in your hands. And he came from Amsterdam and his luggage didn't arrive. Now you must imagine going to a race like that. And now you don't have anything. Now you've got to find stuff. So he took my spare cap. And then someone else, my Latvian friend, forgot his pot, and I wasn't going to cook, so I gave him a pot. And then, you just trade like this. So, but my biggest trade on day 3, I exchanged my spare goose, which I couldn't stomach on the race, for a roll of toilet paper. And that just I was much more relaxed after that. Because if you don't have, you don't have. It's a problem. Yeah. Okie dokie. So back to the beginning. That's just a pretty slide because that was the architecture and the colors and everything in Marrakesh, and it's just very different to what we have at home. So I made it to Marrakesh, and then from Marrakesh, I had to catch the bus to Ouarzazate. So Ouarzazate is a desert town, literally on the edge of the desert. It's actually quite a famous town because it's got a Universal Studios there, and it's where they filmed Lawrence of Arabia and all the desert movies and Cleopatra, and a lot of the hotels have all the old props from the film sets and whatever. So we were there in Ramadan. It was quite weird because in the daytime it was like a ghost town, and then nighttime it came alive like you see there. Again, I might add that if you didn't have anything, never mind on the race, but if you didn't bring it into Morocco with you, the chances of you getting it there was quite slim. There was another guy that came from the UK and he traveled by Canary Islands, and he thought he'd get most of what he needed in Marrakesh. In Marrakesh, there isn't even race food or booze or stuff like that. And then some poor soul thought he would find a heart rate monitor in Ouarzazate, which, yeah, I was no, it was hard enough just to find food. my Latvian friend was also vegan, and he didn't know that he had to be self-sufficient for the first 2 days in the bivouac, so he didn't have that food, and we had to go and look for vegan food in that square there where all those people are. So that was also interesting. So what I want to say, another lesson of mine, is just be brave, throw out any insecurities and doubts. And that's not just about taking on a decision about embarking on like a race or an adventure or something that scares you, but like it's even just in terms of making friends, because I had to really get out my comfort zone and just be brave and make friends. And maybe they don't like me because I did, but these people here kind of were like the guardian angels sent to look after me, and they made my experience on my journey and my race so much better. So that little lady on the side, when I was in Marrakesh, I was traumatized, but I thought I can't sit the whole day in my hotel room and not see Marrakesh. I've traveled like halfway across the world. So like, what am I going to do? So I thought like, just be brave, just go and book a taxi to the palace. And then at least you can just tell everyone that you at least saw the palace there. Okay. So I quickly went and I booked the taxi. And as I stepped out that front door, there was this lady, and she spoke English. Because also if you don't speak French there, or Arabic, you're like screwed. And if you're a woman, like also. So I saw her and she was like, I'll help you and I'll take you, and I'm a tour guide. And she just took me and we toured the whole city, and she took me to the souks, and she took me to the tombs and the palace. And it was just like, wow. And I had a full day's experience, and it just took me making the decision to just go and book that taxi. And then the two guys, that side of the screen, they are South African, but the one lives in London. And the other one is my Latvian friend, and basically Shane. I just latched myself onto them, whether they liked it or not, but like I had to, because like you're desperate. So I mean, I was just like, okay, are you here for the race? Okay, this the Nick, the one South African guy, like I also met him, and there's a whole big story to that, meeting him in Joburg, and I really had to go out my comfort zone to meet him. And then the Latvian, I saw him in Ouarzazate, and I was like, you must be doing the race. Okay, I'm sitting with you, thank you. And actually it worked out well for both of us. So yeah, just be brave. Okay, so we got our last minute supplies or not in Ouarzazate, and then we took the journey into the heart of the desert across the Atlas Mountains. So as you'll see, they literally laid out the red carpet for us, literally in the middle of nowhere. However, I was so nauseous from going over the mountains in the bus for 6 hours. And then I needed to wee, and like I promise you, like that was my overwhelming. So I did not really appreciate the warm welcome that we got into the heart of the desert, because like I was desperate, and I didn't notice much of the red carpet and all the fanfare, but it was there. It was there. So there were 67 countries represented on the race. There were nearly 1,000 runners, a bit less this year, but close on 1,000. The race organizers and people were 350 in total. So that's like organizers, medics, photographers. There's a lot of people. And then you still got the Bedouin who had the camels and did the tents. So a big setup. And life in camp was interesting. It's amazing how quickly people just adapt. It just becomes normal. I mean, literally, we just went, 8 of us in a tent. This was the first year that they allowed women to have separate tents. So normally it's just anyone, wherever. So I did book a woman-only tent. I just thought it would be easier, like one less thing to worry about. Didn't really make a difference. But, we just formed our routine very quickly. You just got used to having nothing. So the race starts on actually day 3. So the first day you arrive, everyone arrives, and then you settle yourself in. And then day 2 is where they check your kit. So everything, your compulsory gear is checked. They check that you've got the right amount of calories. They check your medical. You have to have an ECG. They check that all your documentation's in order. They fit a tracker onto your backpack so that you don't get lost. And what else do? They take a photograph. So they've got to do everybody. So that's day 2. And then on day 3, you start running. So you're already starting on a deficit, because now you're living out of that food in your pack, and you've already been sleeping on the floor. And you're already dirty and you're already tired. So the bivouac is huge. That's what it looked like. The bivouac moves. but it's the same setup every day. So it looks the same. It's moved, but you think you're in the same place, actually. Yeah. What was quite weird of living with so many people in close proximity is at the end of the race, I mean, I lived with them for 10 solid days, and all I did was run, and then I was back in the camp. But at the end of it, I probably only knew a handful of people, you know. There were like 1,500 people there. And then you wonder, like, no wonder we're lonely in this world. We're full of people, and there's so many people around us. How long does it take to actually know those people? How long does it take you to get to know your whole village? Yeah. Life in camp was busy. For all the doing nothing, I mean, we ran, and some people ran longer than other people. But a friend, and I said, where were you? And he said, I was busy, but like there's admin. And I don't know, the first person back to the tent every day, it's that person's job to sort the tent out and make it livable for everyone. So that means like taking the sand off the carpet and removing rocks from underneath the mat. And when I say rocks, I think for 3 nights out of the 6, it was not possible to remove every stone. The desert is rocky and stony. And then you have to check which way the wind is coming from, and then you're going to turn and put one side down or another side down, and then get sand and rocks to secure it so that you make it sort of closed. So, yeah, it's a lot of admin. And then the poor people that had to go to the medic tent, that would sometimes take them like 5 hours of their time, because you go and you queue and you wait, and there's such a queue for all those people, like everyone needing help, that, I mean, that's half your day gone. And especially if you came in late. So, yeah, the days just go. I kind of say that the life in camp sort of resembled that of like a war-torn Afghanistani sort of a vibe camp. Everyone, it was like the walking wounded. It was very interesting to watch. I had the innermost tent, which was nice because we saw the middle. So you would watch the runners coming in, and you'd see the people hobbling and the amount of tape. And it was like watching live TV. Yeah. Yeah, day 4, we were given a Coke. It was quite strategic because that was after the long day, 1 Coke. It came on a van. When I say Afghanistani war camp, food aid, you've never seen people run. 1 Coke. You won't believe what 1 Coke does to morale, like a pick-me-up. And I think also like a calorie boost was like quite amazing. But you also saw the nasty side of people, because there were those people that took 2 Cokes, and you mustn't be a 2 Coke person, you know? There was 1 Coke for each person. That's all. It was the same, like, I hate to say it, but like we got these poo bags, and like, yeah, people hoarded them because they were so scared that they would run out. And so like there was a saying like, be the 2 and don't be the person that steals the poo bags. Okay. So it is a desert, obviously, and there's sand, but I don't think you really comprehend like what sand like that is. It's just like, just gets into everything. Like you just have to resign yourself to the fact that I hate the beach, so I don't even know why. I thought that I would love the desert. I do love the desert, but so it is different to the beach. But you know, when I was looking at the houses in Morocco, and they're like tall and high, and these tiny little windows at the top, and how did they live like that? But yeah, to keep the sand out and to keep the heat out. Yeah. So sand got into everything, and you just ate it. I didn't clean my spoon. I didn't clean my bowl. I didn't you just gave up. You just surrendered. I was very lucky that I didn't run through a sandstorm. I think that must be horrendous. But we did have 2 nights where sandstorms came up in the night, and then you just like lay down. You had to lie on top of everything, and some tents just came down, and the one storm went on for 3 hours. And you try and hide yourself in your sleeping bag, but you can't breathe, so you put your head out, and the sand just comes in, and it stings you, and it like will shoot right through your sleeping bag. It's like you can't. And then some people would get up and want to go and make a wee or something, and then they came back and all their stuff was gone, and it's just blowing across the desert. It was like, yeah. So you also learned whatever you were doing, because there was so much wind, like you never left anything without like weight on top of it, because otherwise it would be gone. And you saw all the time people running across the camp trying to retrieve their stuff. Yeah. Okay, so where am I now? Yeah. Backpack. If I say that was my one problem with this race, I mean, my original pack that failed on me on number 19, that was, my friend, that pack was comfortable. That was like, this thing hurt me. So the first day you ran 30-something kilometers, I think. The running wasn't that bad, but I thought, what have I done to my shoulder? They've got a shoulder injury. How could I have a shoulder injury? But actually, they said it's the weight of the pack sitting on your traps. You go back and you take that pack off and you actually think, how am I going to put this on my back tomorrow? So as they say, it hurts until you think it can't hurt anymore, and then it does hurt. And again, you think it can't hurt anymore, and then it does hurt. But actually, you just cope with it. So you get up the next day and you have to put this thing on your back. And every day, those first 5Ks were just agony. Like you just push through them until your body just like gives up and says, okay, I'll do this. That picture, that was one of the few photos I took when I decided that I would use my camera. But actually, then I gave up, I think day 2 or day 3, because I realized I wouldn't have a camera that worked or phone, because it got so full of sand. So I wrapped it up. That was across the salt pans. And if you ask me what I think of, or in my mind, that's what I saw for 6 days of running. That's like just a whole lot of nothingness. All I just saw was blue sky and this golden browny sand, blue sky, this haze. Like I didn't get sunburnt either. You think that you would get burnt, but you don't, because I think there's so much dust and haze in the air. Very different. And there wasn't much color. That is the color of everything. I thought that the sun would be like orange, and you'd see that the sun rose in the morning, it was white, and when it went down at night, it was white and blue. That's what I saw. Yeah, so very, very interesting. Yeah, so the first day of running was pretty uneventful, besides for my pack. I was lucky I didn't have my back shredded, but I can tell you that when I came back, where you have a concave in your back, mine was like convex, and it was like hard, and it took like a month. It felt like it was something on the bone of my back. It's like I can't have a pack on my back for quite a while longer until I get over that trauma. That was the worst part for me, was the pack. Which way am I going here now? So we've done our first day, the running. Everyone asks me when I run, what do I think about? And I think about nothing, actually. Just pure bliss. I think when nothing goes through your mind and you can just be silent, that's where the magic is. Magic in the stillness, in the nothingness, in the simplicity. And again, that is the picture in my mind of what I saw every day when I ran. I'm not the best person to ask, because I run, and I know my running partner will attest to the fact that I never know where I am when I run. Doesn't matter if I've run somewhere 100 times. I don't really see a lot, but that is the vision imprinted in my mind. There's so many metaphors written about sand, and sands through the hourglass, and sands of time. And after being in the desert, I can really, really understand it. Within the first day, you learn to read the sand. You learn where it's going to be more effective to literally put your feet in somebody else's footsteps, where you're sticking to them so close that whenever they lift their foot, your foot literally goes into their imprint. You also learn where to run on virgin sand, where it's easier. You need to be clever. You can't waste energy. Every step is calculated. So you're constantly watching, constantly observing. This is coming down one of the big jebels. You'll see how steep it was. So that's when I say, like, what comes, you're coming down, so you were going up. You must know how high you had to climb up that they gave you the rope at this point to hold on to. That was on the beginning of the long day. And that day was quite torturous for me. I really messed up because I didn't take the extra 1.5 liters of water because I didn't know where I was going to carry it. Because that pack was so small, I had to have this other waist pack around my middle. And then where was I supposed to put another 1.5 liter water bottle? Like I didn't have anywhere, so I didn't take it. And that was a fatal mistake. So by 30 Ks in, I was already struggling and I knew I'm in for a long day. You can't go to the medics because if you go to the medics, they're going to pull you off. No, they're going to give you Panado if you need Panado. That's about it. And if you need a drip, you're going to go home. I don't want to go home. You don't go this far to want to go home. So actually, strangely enough, what saved me were my stock cubes. So this year on the race, they did away with 120 compulsory salt tablets that every competitor was given in previous years. And this year, part of your mandatory kit was 2 stock cubes, no stock cubes. So for the salt intake, and your body can absorb it much more easily. And everyone said, blah, 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 that's ridiculous. But I had my stock cube and my food every night. And then on this day 3, I was like desperate. What can I eat or drink like that? I can't, I've got to keep taking something, but everything was coming out. So I put my stock cube in my water bottle and it dissolved because the water was boiling anyway. And I drank it and it worked. It like kept me going. So it was quite incredible. Those water bottles, I will tell you, is the first thing that I did throw away when I got to the end because they were pretty disgusting. Because from having broth, stock cubes, and water, and protein shake, you can't wash them out. Like they were like, I'm sure they were germ infested anyway. Still survived, so yeah. Okay, so again, that's a little bit of the scenery there. You see I'm wearing my same clothes. I did have that scarf around my neck, which I lost somewhere on the long day, and lucky no one found it or picked it up because otherwise I would have been penalized because if you lost anything and it was picked up, then you would get penalties if you took too much water. They would give it to you because they don't want you to die, but you get penalties. So yeah, everything was very strictly controlled. Yeah, my big thing about the long day was, my biggest worry was, how was I going to get through the day? Not only how was I going to get through that day, but like recover in time to be able to run the marathon day the next day. So to put it into perspective, the long day was 85 Ks. I'm running it with a pack on my back. It's like running Comrades, and the next day after Comrades going and running a marathon. But you do it. So what I did learn on this adventure is that your body's ability to recover is actually phenomenal, especially when you focus on it and you force it. Take the right food, you sleep, you stretch. I mean, I never have really taken stretching very seriously. I mean, anyway, who has the time? Like most of the time, you just got to you do your runs and you go home and you've got to actually, it takes time to do all of that stuff. But now you get into camp and there's not much else to do, so you are going to spend an hour stretching. And let me tell you, it makes a huge difference because the next day you can actually walk and you have your protein shake after every run because that's the only thing that you can have, so you have it and it must have made a difference. On the long day, the last 10 Ks, the medics did give me something for my nausea because I think they realized that I wouldn't die and I would make it the last 10 Ks, and they gave me that amount of Coke, that amount, like so tiny, like they were so stingy, but yeah, it was enough. Like, I think we overconsume everything. Oh, and another interesting thing is they had like 900 lemons that were sliced into tiny, tiny thin pieces. And you know what those lemons were? They were for cramping. And that actually comes from a South African doctor that figured out that cramping is not actually lack of sodium or muscle fatigue. It's a brain thing. That's why the Americans all consume pickle juice, because it does the same thing. It's like it changes a signal in your brain. So by sucking on the lemon, it tells your body to stop cramping or something. Anyway, everyone said blah, 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 it doesn't work. But anyway, it did work. So, and that came from a South African. So the other thing is, don't ever judge anyone. The unlikely competitors come out tops. and never, ever be arrogant. Never, ever assume. So on this trip, there were the influencers of all nationalities. Some of them were athletes and some of them were just influencers. So that was fine. There was a Korean girl who was an influencer. And she came in, she was so proud. She was the last one in every day, but it was cool. And she videoed everything and everyone saw her and she was in her skirt and she was like, yeah, that's fine. But then there were two Americans, they were like boxers and they had their own media crew. They were in the same hotel as me and was as out. And yes, they were arrogant. So when we arrived at the bivouac,
We lost you there for a moment, Chris.
Okay, we're back now.
Great, thank you. So you were just about to say about after the Korean girl, about the boxer, the two guys.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if you heard, but the one guy never made it. He bailed, and then the other one came in long time after. So he was humbled. And then in my tent, there were two ladies that really, really, really had to dig deep. They took the longest amount of time every single day. Their feet were shredded. They were broken. And I actually looked at them and I thought, and then when you come in late, you don't have recovery time. I mean, I came in on the long day at 10 o'clock at night. I had the whole night the next day, because there was a rest day between the long day and the marathon day. But they came in, they literally didn't even have time to even eat a meal, and the next day practically started. So they don't get recovery, but they just put their heads down and they carried on and they made it. They finished. So, yeah, I think, and anything can throw you, one little thing goes wrong and there goes your race. So there was another influencer who was quite high up in the field, and then she got blisters. When your feet are shredded, you can't run. So then she hobbled the last few days and she finished, but wasn't the race that she wanted. So, yeah. Now, stuck.
Anything.
Okay, back to it. Okay, so these are the coolest sweeps in any race history. So they were there every morning when we left, when we started our day, and they were the signal that the last runners came home. So they followed everyone, and yeah, they were cool. And I must say, when I say in the desert there was nothing, the only living creatures I saw, so there were these little black beetles, saw those. Apparently there were some shrews at night. I didn't see the shrews. And I saw one herd of wild camel, and they were very dark, almost black. And that's all I saw in the 10 days whilst I was there. Okay, so for me, the running part actually wasn't as hard as I anticipated. I don't know if it was because I was very well prepared or if I took it very conservatively. Hindsight is 2020. Maybe I could have pushed harder, but then maybe also something else would have happened. And who knows? I mean, there was a guy that was in the top 20 and he injured a hammy and then he was out. So, I think it was better to make sure. I just wanted to make sure that I would finish. That picture me there, I'm running towards the finish line. I think for me, so the physical part wasn't that hard, but what I didn't bank on was the mental strain. Until 1 kilometer before that finish line, I didn't actually believe that I would finish this race. It took such a huge amount of physical effort to just know that I have got to get through today. Like, it started already pre the race because it was such a big deal and it's so expensive and so much logistics that you start like praying you're not going to get sick, that you're not going to get injured, etc. Then you've got to do travel. Then you've got to get to the start line, and then you're at the start line, and then you're like, okay, now I've got to get through today's running and the next day's running. So only once I got through, I saw that 1 kilometer. Literally, I looked at my watch, 1 kilometer, I saw the finish. I thought, okay, I'm going to finish. I'm not a very emotional person, and I don't really ever cry, but I actually did cry when I went through that finish line. But I think the reason I cried is you're in the middle of nowhere. They've put this finish line thingy up. You run through. They take the medal. They put it on your neck. They usher you to a pen. They take a photograph of you. They then usher you to the next pen, and they give you a food parcel because you're very hungry and food deprived. And then they say, get on the bus because you're taking the 6-hour drive back to Ouazzazate. And you just think, what the hell just happened? Like, there's no one there to see that you did this. There's no one to say, like, well done. You've just run this whole thing. You're tired. And you're like, I've done it. Is that it? Is it like over? And you just get on the bus. And you're not even next to like another random stranger, so it's not even the friends that you've made in camp. You can't like offload. I promise you, I still don't think that I'm processing the whole thing. It's like it's still there. I don't know. Yeah. So that it was a big thing, like a mental thing, and it was a big come down. Yeah, so I did cry. I think it was almost an anticlimax. It was an anticlimax because you realize you're going to do it and then it's done and then it's over and then now what? Another thing that they don't talk about is the camaraderie that you form. I think everything that I read on MDS was like, it's about the kit, it's about the race, it's about the running, it's about the training, but nobody talks about the people and the friendships that you form and life in the bivouac. I think everything that people ask me about this experience, running, is at the very bottom. It features the least, and yet it's a running race. But it was everything other than the run for me. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that basically running is my metaphor for life. It's hard work. It can be a slog. How many times you go for a run and you think this actually sucks? And am I getting any better at this? But you keep tugging along, and then every now and then you experience those magical moments that make the journey worthwhile. It's also a reminder that you get what you put in, or you get in, what you put in, you get out, yeah. As my coach always says to me, consistency is key in everything that you do. Just be consistent. And that the little increments add up, and that each step forward finally gets you to your destination. That eventually, after a long, hard climb, when you're tired and you feel like giving up, you will get the downhill, the recovery, and the reprise. In the words of Dr. Seuss, are the places you will go, the people you will meet. And that, for me, is why I run. Thank you very much.
That was pretty wow.
Yes.
How did you do in the race?
What that slide I did, I was in the top 200, so I finished top 200. Yeah. I think it was a very, very strong women's field. So I was, I think, top 20 female, top 10 vet. But with the women, like the older women are strong. They like the rock stars of endurance. Yay for us. Anyone else got questions? Yes.
I wasn't know if I would say that in the environment.
Okay, so just for the people on the Zoom, she was asked what did I wear to protect my eyes from the sand. So I don't know if you noticed in any of my pictures, if we can just go back, I had these cycling glasses, they're those ones, yeah. So some people had goggles, snow goggle things. I didn't take those. I just had my cycling glasses, and they transition lenses. So I had them on all the time. And so when it wasn't, when it wasn't too bright, the lens changes, and they are trashed now. They are probably you can't even see through them because of like all the scraping and stuff. But those were fine for me. I didn't run through a sandstorm, so I think maybe if I'd run through a sandstorm, it would have been different because then you maybe need the big goggles. But those were perfect, and I had my hat, and then I also had my scarf. So sometimes I did look like a Bedouin. Because then you just cover everything, you just run. Yeah. Yes.
Marion.
Question, you said your feet did really well compared to many other runners. You know what the reason for that was? Was it what you were wearing? Was it shape of your foot?
Okay, so the question was, how did my feet do so well or wear better than other people? So I think there's a few answers to that. The first one is just experience. I know what works for me. Some people bought shoes that were too big, and then their feet never swelled, and so their foot chafed well. They ended up cutting their shoe open. I always run in size. I'm a size 5. My running shoes are always a size 7. So it doesn't matter that's just, my shoes are always big. And then for the desert, I actually ran in road shoes, not trail shoes. They had more cushioning. And I bought them a size 7, and I put an inner sole in so that I had more absorbency. And also then if my feet swelled too much, I could take the inner sole out. And then I ran with those Injinji 5-toe sock things. So the socks with the 5 fingers. And I had Body Glide. So then I took Body Glide stuff all over my toes. Then my socks into the 5 toes. And then I did change socks every second day. So I had 3 pairs of socks. Because otherwise they just stand on their own. And it was like, yeah. So... And I was just lucky. I think a lot of it is experience, knowing your feet. So you run these races, but what is so weird is things also change. Like your food that you eat one day, or the shorts that you wear one day, the next day that food doesn't work. Those shorts you never chafed. I come back, I run Comrades. I come back from Comrades, never had a running blister in my life. I wear the same socks, the same shoes at Comrades, and I come back with the feet full of blisters. So who knows? I don't know. I was just lucky. Yeah.
Okay, guys, 1 or 2 more, and then we'll go online.
You're obviously very, very fit, and you've run for a long time. What happens to your fitness? Does it improve in time, or do you find you keep to the same level? Do you get fitter after a big race like this? Do you feel fit?
Okay, so
feel different?
So the question is, do I feel fitter after a race like this? Do I get fitter?
All your fitness, being at a peak, do you keep going up?
So it's a weird thing. I think this race, I did feel that I got stronger as the race progressed. I really found my rhythm. But that said, it does take its toll eventually. Like the body can't keep at that level. I think for me, I was fine, and I actually did really well. In actual fact, all my niggles and everything wore away. Like I got stronger and stronger each day. I was like, I was happy. I found like it just is my place. But I went and ran Comrades. and then my body just said, because your body can only take so much. So you do need to give it a break. And what was interesting is, yes, I may have got fitter, but I can tell you that I came back, my HRV, unbalanced, all my stats, my heart rate through the roof, like nothing was right. My sleeping was off. It took me like a full month to just get my heart rate back, even though I felt fine, even though I felt normal. I didn't get sick, but there is an incredible amount of stress that's been placed on your body. And then I just got it normal, and then after Comrades, it just went haywire again. There was too much too soon. So it is interesting. I came back from the Karoo trip, which was a little bit less intense, and I went and ran a marathon PB 2 weeks after that. So I think this sort of lower intensity endurance stuff does improve your fitness, but there comes a point, that you do need to.
Your recovery is pretty quick, though.
I've been lucky this time, yeah.
Let's do 2 more. Mary?
I just wanted to know if you had a map of your route.
There are maps online, I guess. Some people tracked. You can find the route from every day, and I think on my Garmin I will. And I have a book. The book has the map, but they gave you a race book that is there. But this year was a little bit different, so we did do some circles as opposed to going from A to B.
Last question for you.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Like the average pace, it's like the average winning woman's pace was 8 minutes. Okay, that's slow. On the last day, the 21, I think I did 6:15 or something, and like I couldn't run any more than that. And I was broken. But on the long day, I was plodding for a lot of it.
Lewis, anything from your side?
Yeah, we had lots of congratulations and awesome and stunning, and you can read the chat if you want. One question though, Nick Cowley asked what percentage of runners completed the race.
So this year it was quite a good percentage, because previous years there's been, I think last year was a heat wave, was excessive heat, and I think 40% of the runners dropped out. I'm not sure. I think if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, do you remember? I think it's about, maybe there were 100 and something runners that didn't finish, if I'm not mistaken. I know on the long day, 60 runners dropped out just on the long day. But once you dropped out, I mean, if you made it through the long day, you'll hang in there for the rest of it. So I think the biggest dropout was on the long day, and there were about 60 of them. I'm not sure the full amount. Yeah.
Okay, Nick French says about 10% failed. So you were right.
10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, guys, so that was pretty spectacular. Just as a quick thought, most of you guys would have heard of somebody called Viktor Frankl before. And one of his quotes that he's famous for is that man, or in instance woman, cannot survive but for the future. So you are in the footsteps of giants in your thinking and linking to vision and what have you. The second thing is that most of you guys know that I've spent quite a bit of time hiking in the Kruger. And the guys from AR Gators, at least I just saw you now. In fact, I see you on the screen. You guys created for you as well, created a special pair of gaiters just for me in the Kruger to cater for the thorns and the whole tutti. And that pair of gaiters certainly changed my experience in the past. So anybody needing a pair of gaiters, AR Gators is the place to be. Okay, so guys, thank you very much. For the guys online, Lewis, how many people did we eventually have online? 18 guys. So everybody, thank you very much.